This program only reflects the personal views of the program hosts and/or the individual contributors.
Hello and welcome to Newsline. I'm your host, Harminder Singh. My guest today is Tommy Cheung, legislator for the catering sector functional constituency. Mr. Cheung, thank you for joining me here today. Now, I wanted to get your views on what's been happening in the first couple of weeks of this session of Let's Go. And as usual, fireworks have already gone off. Now, the first thing is the deputy and the chairmanships of the House and Finance committees. Now, a long-standing tradition has been that the Pan-Democrats usually get the deputy seats of these influential committees. However, this year they've been shut out, mostly from all of the major influential committees. Is this revenge by the pro-establishment on the Pan-Democrats for ambushing two subcommittees last year?
Well, I don't think so. That's last year. This year, in fact, I have spoken already a couple months ago that I think bygones be bygones, and that we should go back to the 2012 agreement that we have with the Pandems. Unfortunately, at one time when I was talking to Sid Ho, who is now the convener of the Pandems, she said even that she is not agreeable. She believes that it's not being fair. It's not a fair deal. So she wants a direct proportion. So what can the LP Liberal Party do? We could only believe, we believe that going back to 2012 and forgetting last year is a way forward, but she said no deal. I want something more than 2012. So to answer your question in short, no it isn't. They want more, and they want to turn the table not just last year, but they want to turn the table on 2012. Like the previous two terms that we have, that I believe we started discussing in 2004, 2008, and 2012, that certain committees, panels that we agreed upon, then we don't fight each other.
And that's interesting because, of course, the Pan-Democrats don't hold the majority of the seats, yet they want pretty much wanting it all split down the middle. Is that what Sid Ho said to you?
No, she said not split down, but proportional, assuming like assuming we have 40, they have, we have 42, they have 27, so that's like a 2-to-1, okay? So they want a 1/3 kind of thing, you know, that's what she meant by being proportion. But the sad thing and unfortunate thing about it is, I have always been an advocate of sharing these chairmanship. In fact, since 2000, when the Food Safety and Environment Panel was created in year 2000, I have always alternate with the Pandems. 2 years them, 2 years me, 2 years them, 2 years me. No argument. This term, the first 2 years, they got it. But they came for my 4th year. So I think that's really low blow. You can go for whatever seats you want, but this particular chairmanship, you have it for 2 years, as we agreed.
So it's not just them complaining that a long-standing tradition has been broken, they're also breaking it as well.
I think they're the first one that broke everything, okay? They ambushed him, the pro-establishment last year, trying to make the whole finance committee making it like a stalemate, where you can't even get new items passed to go to the finance committee. And this year, the Liberal Party already, I am the first one that stated that we should go back to 20112. In fact, pro-establishment to a large extent agree with us that we should. It is them that want something more than 2012, and they broke every rule in the game book.
And of course, you also then wanted to run for the chairmanship of the House Committee, but after going through your pro-establishment colleagues, you realized that there wouldn't be enough support, and of course you pulled out. Was this due to the Liberal Party not walking out during the vote on the political reform package, or was this just a snub because the Liberal Party is now known to be the pro-establishment party that criticizes this executive government?
Well, let me put it this way. I think whoever runs for the House Committee chairmanship, this is an in-house thing, has something to do with outsiders, government or Beijing. Okay, this is our vote. As I have said, I would not want the seat of chairmanship if I barely have 35 votes. That would not be my goal. I would want a cross-party. I would want cross-support, both functional and direct elected members to support me, or else I don't think I would want the job. I have called a lot of my fellow colleagues, especially the pro-establishment colleagues. What I felt most that touched my heart was it would be a difficult choice for them, either way. And they would rather not make the choice.
Did they explain why it would be a difficult choice?
Well, because they think Andrew was doing a fair job, and obviously Andrew Leung,
Yes.
and obviously they complimented me by saying that they know I would be doing a good job too. Don't want to see fellow, pro-establishment colleagues, running against each other. That's what makes their choice difficult. That's why after talking with them over a week, I decided I should not put my colleagues in such a difficult situation to making a choice.
Now, you mentioned that this issue is not for outsiders such as the government or the Central People's Government. However, Regina Ip did come out and say, well, I need to consult with the government to see whether who is a candidate that we should support. What do you say to that?
Well, it is her choice who she seeks advice or who she listens to. But as far as the Liberal Party is concerned, as far as I'm concerned, I have heard from nobody that tells me one way or the other whether to run or not to run. I make my own decisions.
And on the flip side, is there a rivalry between the Liberal Party and the Business and Professionals Alliance? Because a lot of former members, of course, are a few former members of the Liberal Party are on that side now.
I don't see that as a rivalry. They had a choice. They made the decisions. The Liberal Party has always been and will always be a spokesman, not just for the business, but especially for SMEs and all these micro businesses, which makes up most of my constituents, which basically all the issues touches our heart. We know it. We're also, SMEs. Unlike my colleagues, they represent basically the big businesses, the big General Chamber of Commerce, which in fact in the old days, a lot of people complained about the Liberal Party being representing big business and not the SMEs. In fact, to some extent, I don't mind them leaving in the sense we are clearly now the champion for SMEs.
Considering that SMEs make up, some say up to 90% of the jobs that most people receive in this city, and so you split off into big business versus SMEs. That seems to be the stand that both of you are now taking.
No, I'm not splitting anything off. Anything that's bad for business, we will speak up. But there are times when big business conflicts with smaller businesses, like electricity bill go up, only 2 electric companies get more money in their pocket, but all the SME suffers. So we spoke out against it in the past, and both those 2 companies didn't like us too much. Okay, why do you speak against price hike? But because we say you're guaranteed the price increase, we don't like that. Okay, we don't believe you should continue to have that. And SMEs are suffering, and it is not good for their business, especially with my restaurateurs. Right now, about 12% of our turnover goes to utilities, electricity, gas, and water. So it is a big chunk, actually, of our turnover now.
So I want to come back to the committee chairmanships and you running for, potentially running for House Committee, but you withdrew. The FTU's Wong Kwok Kin said that he was glad that you pulled out because it would hurt the feelings of pro-establishment members. Was he referring to the Business and Professionals Alliance?
No, I don't think he meant it hurt the feelings. It is what I said. In fact, I also spoke to him. Basically, in Chinese, he said, meat on the palm, also meat in the back. Who should I support? Okay, I can support both. But if I support one over the other, okay, it is hurting our camaraderie, hurting a lot of things, which he doesn't want to see. In fact, what he basically said echoes a lot of other of my pro-establishment colleagues. That's the reason why after a week I say I'm not running for the chairmanship.
Some have said that the pro-establishment has declared open war on the pan-Democrats, but from what you're telling me with what Sid Ho said, it could be the other way around.
I believe it is the other way around because they declared war on pro-establishment last year. In fact, I think they declared war on the government. They actually wanted to see government at a standstill. So they bent backwards to see how they could stop this government from working properly. And from there, they concluded that the best way is to stop them in LegCo. And that's what happened, and that's how you saw them work the whole of last year.
Okay, I just have to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. And welcome back to Newsline with my guest Tommy Cheung, legislator for the functional constituency representing the catering sector. Now, Mr. Cheung, we were talking about the committees and how the pan-Democrats are the ones that have started this war and the pro-establishment taking up all these seats. There are problems upon problems upon problems, and it could be another year where we're having another standstill in government where hardly anything gets done. So my question is, what needs to be done on both sides to mend these rifts?
I think the voters have a lot of say. I think if the voters tell all of us at LegCo, we are sick and tired of what you do. Okay, you're not helping my cause. You're not helping our cause. Out you go. Obviously, then everybody will shape up. But despite last year's turmoil, I got over $100 billion worth of projects, funded, the funding, over 100 million. and also another, I think, 50 billion, for other stuff. So last year, I think I managed, despite the turmoil, to get things done, except ITB, the bureau that the government wanted to set up, that was carried over from the year before. I got everything done that wasn't done the year before, plus whatever we got this year or the last year. So things do get done to some extent. The pandemics couldn't, basically they try to revel up the whole situation, making government ungovernable. That really hasn't worked, at least in the finance committee. We could have done more. I have spent more time, 190 hours total in last year, as opposed to normally 80, 90 hours we get done. They want to filibuster to some extent. They spend twice as much time, or I need to spend twice as much time to get things done. But I did get it done.
And speaking of the ITB, which I'm assuming you do support, the filibustering group People Power has said that they would actually curtail their filibustering if they received a certain concession. That's progress, is it not?
Not really, because they have already spent too much time on ITB. I think total altogether they already spent 32 hours of the finance committee time. I think what they're saying is basically repeating themselves. And depending what they do with the 37As, doing motions without notice, ITB should be able to close up in 2 to 4 meetings. I expect it to be finished by the end of October.
Would you have ruled, if you were finance committee chairman, to end the filibustering?
Until the court ruled on Leung Sing's case a month ago, I have said whole last year that I have no scissors. I could not stop it because that court order isn't in. But with the new court order, unless Wong Yuk-man wanted to appeal, that decision seems to that even finance committee chairman will have some power in ending filibustering. But even though I don't have that pair of scissors, but negotiating with them and talking to them, giving them a chance to speak their mind out, giving them a chance to do the 37A according to the rules and procedures, but not doing a few thousand, but doing something less than 100, 40, 50. Making sure all these motions that they move do not duplicate themselves. It's not in a sequence. I managed to keep things in check. So I think if any chairman have some, if they use some tact in approaching the pandemics, they know they can only do certain things. They can only prolong it so much. They will respect you for telling them don't repeat the same questions, or that questions have been answered 2-3 times, etc. And they will move forward or keep quiet. So they will test, like young children, how far they can push you. But when they throw the book at you, the rules and procedures, and if you're doing everything by the rules, there's not much they can filibuster. They can't filibuster all their life.
You mentioned young children. Some have mentioned that this has become kind of a playground in these committees. But if there's a conflict that the Pan-Democrats hope to mediate and resolve, has your party become the go-to party for them to begin any type of negotiation with pro-establishment?
I think the Liberal Party and even ourselves individually, for me, for instance, I got no problem being a restaurateur, talking to all kinds of people. Everybody walks in, it's my customer. I don't say no to them. I don't care if they're the police, I don't care if they're the chief executive, I don't care if they are a blue-collar worker, whatever, as long as they pay what the menu said they should pay or the bill said they should pay, I'm fine. So I'm very accommodating. And in that way, same thing with the Liberal Party. We look at all our colleagues as colleagues. We respect where they stand. We respect what they oppose. Not that I agree with it, but I respect it. And we can always try to see if we can work some compromise. Politics is all about compromise, and if you don't compromise, you should not be in politics.
But it seems to be not heeded, this advice that politics is about compromise lately. But I want to get out of that and switch gears here and go into the standard working hours. Now this really affects your constituents because most of the staff in the catering sector work on per hour basis. Now legislating standard working hours may mean overtime pay, and that can really hurt the bottom lines of the restaurants and catering industry. However, the Standard Working Hours Committee is now in a impasse because members have said, unless there is concrete legislation, we are pulling out. Where is your stand right now on standard working hours?
I don't mind if they all pull out. What does that mean? It is just I don't know what you call it, a committee studying the effect of standard working hours. In fact, they probably don't like what they see, so they say let's pull out. But this is something that we have seen before, that when labor people doesn't get what they want, they just don't negotiate. You heard me say about compromising, but working standard hours is not just my constituency. In fact, if you look at all the SMEs, the funny thing is we don't pay people by the hour. We pay people by a monthly salary. And in the case of minimum wage, when we were deliberating, the secretary always say, oh, we're talking about the hours they work. Little do we know, or do we all know, that because they're on a contract, and we normally give them a sum, say 10,000, and you work 11 hours, and you have 1 lunch hour, and you work 6 days work week. But because that wasn't mentioned in it specifically, the hours, and that you get paid by the hour, okay? When the monthly salary, when the minimum wage comes in, suddenly your day off, you should be paying them. Their lunch hours, you should be paying them. Because in your contract, you never said that. Mm-hmm. Same thing with our standard working hours now. I pay a staff $12,000 because I need them to work 12 hours. I'm giving that as an example, okay, easy to remember. But if there were a legislation for 8 hours, I can roll back my salary to 8,000 and give them the overtime. I still, because the contract is 12,000, I still have to pay them 12,000, but they only work an 8-hour week, 8-hour day. If I were to ask them to work the extra 4 hours, I have to pay time and a half. See, that's the difference. So a lot of countries, if you look, when they introduce standard working hours, is because they have high unemployment. The politicians rather see unemployment rate coming down, so splitting a job into 1.5.
I'm just going to have to end it right there. Thank you for joining me this week. I will be back next week.